Looks like it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to call us to order. And Summer, if you will, call the roll.
Commissioner Patterson?
Here.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
And Mayor Mason.
Here. Item number 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular session agenda. I've got one I wanted to bring up, and more for clarity, Gerald, and I was wanting you to speak to it on what the, and you went over it with me, and I appreciate that. I just don't know how the Davis-Bacon Act and why we are doing some things with software.
You know what, I could tell you some stuff, but I think Aaron would be the best person to tell you. Aaron, why don't you educate us all on Davis-Bacon and our requirements and why we need that software?
Yeah, and so there are a lot of regulations when it comes to Davis-Bacon, and one of the requirements for the SRF funding that we have for Call Lake is that we comply with that act. For each subcontractor that's working on the project, they have to submit weekly payroll reports to us, and depending on where they're working, there's different wage determinations that we have to fall within. We've been following Davis-Bacon the entire time. We've been using a software that had previously been paid by Oklahoma Water Resources Board, and they discontinued their service for that program. And so in order for us to get all of our data back that we have over 4,000 payroll records in that system right now. We need to obtain that license on our own so we can gain back access to that and have it for our audit files, and then continue using it going forward for the rest of our program. Basically, it automates a lot of the information, and if a subcontractor puts in information that's incorrect, it will kick it back to them and make them correct it before it can be sent on to us for review. And so it cuts down on the manpower that it takes for us to review all those documents over the course of the program to make sure we're in compliance with what we should be paying for both wages and benefits on it.
Perfect. Perfect. It's exactly what I thought it was. Thank you. Item number, or is there any other discussion on any of the topics tonight on the agenda? Okay. Item number 3, 3.1, discuss the economic impact of the Stride Bank Center and the Junior College World Series. I think this is you.
This is me. And Jeff will be along shortly for part of his presentation. But we were asked to bring you a presentation on the economic impact of the Junior College World Series. And the numbers are good. But what I wanted to share first, I placed in front of each one of you this notebook. You don't need to look at it right now, but it is the Sports ETA State of the Industry Report for 2023. It was just released this past April. And what we'll refer to some of this throughout, but I just wanted to give you the entire report for you to look at kind of at your leisure when you have some time. But this report, it says sports tourism is an integral part of local and national economies across the United States. Travelers attending sports tournaments and other events, either as a participant or a spectator, generate significant economic benefit to households, businesses, and governments alike, and represent a critical driver of the overall economy. Now, this report does include adult and youth amateur events and collegiate tournaments and championships, does not include professional sports and regular season collegiate games. Those numbers would make this even higher, but this encompasses everything that we do, so it works out well. $52.2 billion nationally is what sports tourism brings to communities, and over $128 billion in total economic impact. So now this is New York City, Los Angeles, and Enid, Oklahoma. So that's the whole enchilada. And then there to the side shows you kind of the breakdown, and then we'll move on and show you that sports traveler levels and annual growth has eclipsed COVID numbers, and it rose 7% last year to almost 205 million travelers in 2023 alone. And then this is just in the United States. So basically, what does all that mean for sports tourism in? Somewhere, Enid was supposed to be at the end of that. It got chopped off. So what does that mean for sports tourism in Enid? Well, as you know, we have what is called the Economic Impact Calculator. And I've talked about that a few times, but basically, here's kind of a look at it. And it step by step, we're going to show you how we put input in to get the numbers that we report to you. I thought it would be kind of important just to go over each one of these, just so you have an understanding of what we're doing. The event name obviously is the World Series. The organization, DAMB, is David Allen Memorial Ballpark. The locations in Enid, start and end date. The event type is sports. The sports type is championships. There's 5 different sport types, but this one falls under championships. And it has the option of whether it's an elimination tournament or not, and it is, because that makes a difference on teams will leave earlier depending upon how they do in the tournament. So now we get down to the sports visitor calculation method, and there's 3 ways of doing this. And one of them is direct entry, and that's us standing at a gate and counting every single head that walks through. Not realistic for what we're talking about here. Admission-based is what we charge for tickets for people to come in. For the World Series, it's very difficult to do that because they have all kinds of different passes. They have the David Allen pass that anybody can buy here in Enid. They have a tournament pass. Teams are getting in free that are helping to sponsor the teams that are here. So admission-based really doesn't work either. So what we do is go to participation-based, and it's typically used for amateur events. And it calculates the number of visitors as a function of the number of participants. So the number of participants, we figured 35 per team. We took the program and just kind of counted about half of them, and it came out to about 35 participants per team. There were 12 teams this year instead of 10, so that was a good thing. So that number in that number of participants is 420. Spectators per participant comes from a formula based on thousands of events they've analyzed over a decade plus. And that has to do back where it says the sports type, championships, youth amateur, that kind of thing. For a championship event, 0.5 spectators per participant. So, and then the overnight share, all the teams were from out of town. So we had that at 100%. And then the percentage of day participants, those are our locals that go to the tournament. I have 20%, it's probably more than that, but the local participant or the local fans that go do not count toward the economic impact. Their money's already in Enid. We're wanting to count what's coming in. So, and then now the room block and the room rate over there on the top right. Sometimes that's a guess, sometimes we don't know. In this case, we know pretty well what those numbers are. Jenna assigns the teams to the hotel. She's on that World Series committee, and she actually assigns each team to a specific hotel. And then we know how long they stay because of how they do in the tournament. So we, just doing the simple math, we figured up that teams combined for 1,179 total room nights here in Enid during the World Series. Now, the other thing is on the room block, or the room rate rather, that's usually a proprietary number. The hotels don't like to say what we're charging. We get the normal star report that says, overall, but we have a good enough relationship with our hotels that 8 out of the 9 that hosted a World Series team told Jenna how much they paid or they charged each team per night. And so the average, we took the average of that and then just kind of assigned that to the hotel that didn't respond, and it came out to $122 per night. So we take the 1,179 rooms at $122 a night. So there's also housing costs. That's the bid fee that we have to pay. That's the $25,000 that we pay each year to the NJCAA to host that World Series. And we'll talk about bid fees a little bit later. Organizer exhibit spending is auto-calculated based on the formulas that the calculator uses. And the tax assessment is based strictly to Enid. That shows the 17.1% in taxes that someone pays when they stay in a hotel room in Enid. So that's what spits out, but we're going to make that a little easier for you to see, and we're going to show you that the direct spending impact of those folks that are coming in is $948,000. But the total economic impact, which includes the indirect impact and also the inferred impact, is just about $1.4 million. And that's for 10 days of folks being here. And the bottom figure there, the total tax revenues includes federal, state, and local. The local tax revenue, $64,000. So that's $64,000 we would never have if we didn't have the World Series here. Got a couple other events we want to show you. Region 2 baseball, that's who determines our local representative. And that brings in a total economic impact of almost $300,000 and another almost $14,000 in local tax revenue. Let's go to the Stride Bank Center. I went back, I've been doing these just for the 2024. I cheated a little bit because I went and used Mid-America Wrestling. That is in the middle of December. Figured out that's close enough. So since December through March, Stride Bank Center had 6 different events that encompassed youth sporting events. They had the Mid-America Wrestling, the Dual State Wrestling, and then 4 basketball tournaments, including 2 OSSAA events. And those 6 have a total economic impact of $2.4 million and brings in $104,000 in local tax revenue. That's just on 6 events at the Stride Bank Center. Now this one's going to open your eyes a little bit. This is the Jiffy Trip Invitational that was held at the Advanced Soccer Complex in April. 2-day event. Direct spending impact, almost $790,000. The total economic impact over $1.1 million. And $51,000 in local tax revenue. Reason for that, we go back to the style of event that it is. This is a youth amateur event. Championships bring in 0.5 spectators, but boy, moms and dads and families travel with their kids. 2.3 spectators per participant travel to these youth events. And that weekend, we had just shy of 1,100 participants that were playing. So one weekend, one soccer tournament brought in over $1.1 million. So I'm going to add them all up for you. Direct spending, $3.6 million. Total economic impact, $5.2 million. Jobs generated, total taxes, but the local taxes, $233,000 with 9 sporting events, either with youth or with college. It's a pretty significant event, and we're talking again college baseball, soccer, basketball, wrestling. You all have heard of the term retail leakage, and you know what that is. Well, I'm looking at sports tourism leakage, and what sports don't we have covered in that? We don't have youth baseball or youth softball. That's huge. We have so many teams that are leaving, and we want to get those teams here. That's why the topic of a potential sports complex on down the road, we're so excited to see that happen. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to bring Jeff up, and he's going to go through Placer AI for the World Series and take a deeper look into those visitor trends. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, folks. Good evening. So first slide you're going to see here is our attendance for the World Series. There are couple different lines there, the visitor versus the visitors. The visits are just people that kind of pass by, whereas the visitors are those folks that stay for more than 10 minutes or so at an event. So that's the number we use. So 9,300 people during the week of the baseball tournament. Most of them stayed for 126 minutes, the length of a baseball game during the event. As you see there, it shows obviously it's an elimination tournament. People drop off throughout the week. So you see the chart there. So what we get to see what kind of income, education, age, ethnicity, and persons per household that come in the facility. Didn't bring my glasses, so I can't see this. Hopefully you guys can. Sorry about that. So you'll see in each of those columns, it shows you, the education level. Thank you. So the household income average for the tournament was $54,000. People, 25% folks had bachelor's degree higher. Median age was 31 and a half years of age. And the ethnicity was white, and the persons per household was almost 3 per household coming to that event. So this next slide shows where folks are coming from. The bulk of the folks are coming from Enid, from the 2 zip codes here. And then you see Decatur, Mississippi, Madison, Wisconsin, Stillwater, Oklahoma, so on and so forth. Those are the top 10 zip codes that we see. Where folks are coming from. And then at the end of the day, where do they go afterwards? Obviously, they to the baseball field. They go to Walmart. They go to Chick-fil-A, and on down the road. Those are the top 10 places they travel to. Now with Placer, for us, we're going to use this information to know where to market events, to know who to go after for sponsorships, those type of things. We also, with the information on where they're coming from, if they're coming from Woodward, if they're coming obviously from Stillwater, these places, we know where to market for these different events. So it helps us when we do shows and things like that, when we pull Placer information, it helps us know that, okay, well, this is where we need to be putting signs and radio ads and so on and so forth. Any questions on that? Pretty brief overview.
How did you say you knew their income level and their education level?
It's all done by cell phone.
Okay.
So anybody that walks in to wherever the point of interest, it comes from their cell phone data.
Oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah, so,
Keep your phone at home.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Turn it off.
So stay off social media, whatever, So it is scary, but for what we do for the city, it's very important information. I mean, it helps us figure out how to reach people and what activities to bring to town. And, like Rob says, the baseball, the sporting complexes are going to be something we can go with and work for us, so.
I do have one other question if nobody else does. Have you ever had any cheer competitions?
We are working on that.
'Cause that's a
And I
big-
know Whitney,
It's a big thing.
Ms. Roberts has said something about that as well. So we need to find the right people to talk to. So, and who that is. I know we've reached out to OSSAA to get those folks to try to get it here, and they're interested. So we would love to have it.
Yeah.
We got baton, we've got, the different twirlings and a couple dance events, but we need to get some cheer in here for sure.
That's a lot of divas in the house and they like to shop.
Yeah, a lot of
so-
screaming and hollering going on, same music, all that stuff. So.
How do our hotels, do we have enough hotels?
We used 9 hotels for the World Series. Some of them house 2 teams, but we're good on hotels. The one thing we ran into a couple of years ago was when Coke had their turnaround, and they started it the same week as the World Series. And boy, we were scrambling. But we have assurances from Coke that the turnaround that will be next year will start the week after the World Series. They wanted to be a good community partner. They understood the issues both on their end and on our end. So they've already told us and guaranteed that they won't start until after the World Series is over.
Is 9 the number we have or the number you use?
That's the number we use,
How many do we have?
15-ish.
Really? Okay.
There are some hotels, the way we kind of do this is, would you want your son or daughter to stay in these locations? There's some hotels the newer hotels basically are the ones that we use. So, okay, back to that sports ETA survey, and it said, how does your organization measure success? Well, for us as a DMO for the city of Enid, we use economic impact and room nights. And as we shared before, nearly 1.4 million and almost 1,200 room nights just for that particular weekend. So another thing that this survey did for the first time, they've been doing this for almost 10 years, is they interviewed the rights holders. Those are the people that have the tournaments, and they're looking for locations to bring those tournaments. And so they surveyed several of the rights holders, and what they said was host bids and financial incentives are the most important factors. We're going into sports tourism, we're going into a pay-to-play situation. And basically, more than 80% of destinations across the United States paid some sort of bid fee in 2023. And then you can see the destinations under $500,000 with budget $139,000, and over $500,000 to $1 million, $174,000 in bid fees. Now, over $1 million, then it goes way, way up. But basically, I'm going to conclude with this. As we move forward with a potential sports complex, I just mentioned these bid fees to show you and to show staff, show our citizens that, again, we're becoming pay to play. We're seeing more and more bid fees on everything. We've got a couple of them. Well, we have one that's out right now. We have a bid for the NJCAA Division I Women's Soccer Tournament for 2025. Should we get that, that's about a $12,500 bid fee. We also had a bid in for the Great American Conference postseason basketball tournament. That would have been a 2-year deal, and that would have been at Enid High because the weekend they wanted to be here, Stride Bank Center and the Expo Center both had other events going on. So we partnered with Enid High to put the bid in. We just found out on Friday we did not get that bid. That would have been another $20,000. So bid fees are the way that these folks are going, and just wanted to make you aware of the rate of return. And I didn't even say this, the return on investment for the World Series, 55.4 to 1. We can get that kind of rate of return on different sporting events. I think we're doing okay. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me or for Jeff?
On the Placer AI, just wanted to point out, this is software they've used for a long time. They use it in department stores when you walk through to get shop patterns, you know, how you're shopping, where you're going, where you leave afterwards. So I know when people hear this, they instantly, you know, kind of worry about privacy, but that ship sailed many, many years ago. So it's a tool that we can use, and we have now engaged with you guys and through the ERDA, making sure that that information is going to be actually put to use with our merchants and our citizens here in town to be able to utilize that. You've heard me say before, information is great, but it does no good if it lays on someone's desk on a spreadsheet, right? So it's got to get sent out to
We're learning how to use it every day. Nicole, my
Absolutely.
subject matter expert over at the building, she's learning it, new stuff every day with it. And it's really gonna help us figure out how to market for our stuff, for the building.
And I appreciate what y'all are doing on
Yeah,
that. I've
we're happy to do it.
Been seeing that back and forth, and excellent. I
Thank you.
think,
And the one thing I can add to that is, for instance, the Jiffy Trip soccer tournament. We can go back, set those dates, run those parameters. We can still get those numbers through Placer. They go back, I'm not sure exactly how far, but a ways. So we can go back and look at prior events, and we can run Placer numbers and find out that kind of information for that as well.
yeah. I'll say one more thing about that placer. I mean, I think that placer is just incredible information if we'll actually utilize that. I know of one other community here in the state that are following events all over the state, not just in their community. And when I asked them why they were doing that, they said, we're looking for the next best thing to do, and we don't want to do anything that didn't have a lot of people. So they're looking at our events to decide if they want to do the same thing in their locations. So we don't have to limit that just to Enid. We can do a lot of research on
And
that.
we've done that. We've looked at,
Yeah.
I've looked at shows, looked at different events, or, around that. There was a sportsman show we're trying to get, and looked at a prior date that they had, or prior Oklahoma, and, decided whether it was good or bad. And, the attendance wasn't quite what the promoter was saying it was, so I was like, okay. So, yeah, it's a great tool, for sure.
Well, thank you both.
Yeah, pleasure.
Does anybody have any questions or other comments they want to make? I just think this sports tourism is the way forward for us. I mean, I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it, but I'm going to say it again. It's the way forward. We are geographically located to take advantage of this. And so over the next 24 months or less, right, Gerald?
More or less.
More or less. We have this argument all the time, or discussion, it's not an argument, yeah. But I think there are great opportunities for Enid out there to have those sales tax dollars come into our community. So thank y'all for what you both do.
Commissioner Patterson and Commissioner Roberts, please, help me out figuring out with the cheer stuff. I'm all for it. I just don't know who to get to. Whether it's the or schools or the
I'll
cheer
see if
clubs
I
or
can-
whoever it is.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of one of the cheer coaches and see if she maybe has some contacts.
Perfect. Yeah, we would love to have those things, because that's what we're going to do. So,
All right.
thanks, folks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great night.
Okay. Item 3.2, update on the landfill methane plant from Scissortail Renewables. Gentlemen?
Good evening. John Bolte, Small Arrow Engineering. Normally you have Norman here. I think the alligator I saw this morning under the shopping carts maybe got him. So,
You have a more calming effect on some of the commissioners anyway than Norm. So keep going.
that's my icebreaker for today. Just to give you an update on where we're at, if you've been out to the landfill, you've probably noticed a fair amount of progress since our last discussion. So I'll try to highlight a few things. I've got Wade Miller with me also from SCS Engineering, and he's going to get into a little more detail about the systems that they're installing actually up on the mountain. So we've got kind of two different teams working at once and kind of working towards each other. So I'll kind of overview some of the things on the site here. I think this thing's supposed to, there it is. So probably one of the first things is just overall the grading for the site. We've got in there, got all of our grading done. I know you guys helped us with stripping of the material off, and I know that provided you with quite a bit of cover material for some of your faces where you're trying to get a stand of grass going. So I know they're out there working, placing that extra material. So that's a good thing. So we've got everything down to grade. We've got our meter lot down to grade for One Oak. We've basically handed that space over to them to start working on their design and their installation work that they have to do. We've got our warehouse pad roughed in, and we've got also the plant pad roughed in at this point from a grading standpoint. Also, we got some pictures we'll get to, but we've got all our entrances established off of 16th and off of Southgate. The other thing is we've got our arrangements made with the property owner across the street for our access there for One Oak. Basically, they've got to get over there and tap their pipeline in a couple places for the injection line and then also for the supply gas line that we're going to use. Currently, we've got our foundations poured for the warehouse. We've got our pad poured for the warehouse. And so the next thing that'll start showing up is the actual building package to start erecting the building there. Crews this week, I noticed they're working on our gas house line installations that'll be there in the lot. And so next things we'll be working on will be to get the lot completely kind of gravelled in so we have more all-weather access. I know we had all the rain and mud and fighting all that for a while. Now we've kind of gone the opposite direction, but trying to get our gravel down. So I'm going to go to the next slide, sir. So this is, I think, Norman's little chart that, he's shown you before. And so basically we're in that middle circle now as far as project work. And now that we're in July, we're kind of shifting from trying to get from circle 4 to circle 5, in essence, is where we're at there. Next one. Okay, this is some details from Wade. I'm going to let him talk about up on the hill, how they're progressing with their crews. As you know, there's a fairly extensive effort up there to get the extraction system put in.
Thank you. Again, I'm Wade Miller with SCS Engineers. We began construction roughly June 3rd out at the landfill, and since then I think we've made some pretty good headway. To date, we've got 38 of the 48 proposed extraction wells installed, and we anticipate probably the remaining 10 will be completed hopefully by the end of business or end of day on Saturday. So at that point, the majority, if not all, the extraction wells will be installed. And at this point, we're just primarily focusing on the bigger components, the extraction wells, the peripheral header pipe, as well as a few of the lateral pipes. The header pipe is a conveyance system that goes around the perimeter of the landfill. That's a 12-inch HTB pipe that will convey the gas to the RNG plant. And from that 12-inch pipe, we'll have additional laterals, what we call, consisting of approximately 6-inch HTP, which will go to each one of those extraction wells, and then again convey to the RNG plant. So again, at this point, we have majority of the extraction wells installed. We have approximately a little over 50% of that 12-inch header within the waste installed, and then again about 35% of the gas condensate and Air Force main line. Those lines are utilized to convey the condensate that's generated within the landfill gas that is knocked out in the condensate cells and then conveyed to the facilities' leachate storage tanks. Next slide, please. Here's a picture of the drill rig that we have on site. It's just a bucket rig. For those that are familiar with the oil and gas, it's similar to what they do for the rat holes to begin the oil and gas extraction wells. So it's a 36-inch bucket rig. We utilize this to install each one of the extraction wells there at the site. It is, like today, this afternoon, they weren't able to drill due to the wind conditions. It became a safety hazard, so no drilling was going on this afternoon just because of the height of the drill rig there. Another picture there. Second picture, please. This is our construction crew. They're installing what we call a bentonite plug. Roughly, for the extraction wells that are installed, the ones that are on top, we have 20% or 20 feet of solid pipe are at the top of the surface, and those on the side slope, a minimum of 25 feet of solid pipes on those wells. And below that solid pipe is the perforated portion, as well as the aggregate base that's around that pipe that the gas is flowing in and collecting. So right above that perforation portion, we'll install a 2-foot bentonite plug above that portion to just prevent reduce the amount of air intrusion into the system. Specifically with a system like this where we're going to an RNG plant, we want to try to minimize the amount of oxygen and nitrogen and other components that are being pulled in from the atmosphere. So the midnight plugs are utilized to eliminate or reduce the amount of oxygen and nitrogen. Next one, please. This is a completed well, similar at some point, once we get the laterals and headers and everything installed, we'll go back to this well, install the wellhead and other accessories. But in essence, this is a completed well that has a PVC cap at the top, just to eliminate and reduce the amount of gas that's escaping from that well. And also there to the side, we have, you can see a grate. That's a safety grate we keep on top, just to, in case of the future, because you do have a 36-inch borehole that we have backfilled with soil and aggregate, but that will at some time settle. So we put that safety grate in there as just a safety precaution to keep anything from settling or people to fall into it. It's not been a big situation, but it's a safety measure we utilize. And I believe there's one more picture. It's at the RNG facility.
We're back plant side, so this is what we've got out there currently. That's the warehouse pad that's been poured and in place now. So like I said, we'll be beginning to bring in the metal building components to start erecting of our building. In essence, once we get the building up and closed in, then that can start to serve as kind of our storage building to start to receive equipment and components for the plant itself. So I think we've got another slide there. Just showing one of our typical entrances. So we've got our construction entrance here off of 16th Street. This one's going into the 1 Oak lot. So again, we've been having weekly coordination meetings with them. They've applied for their permit with the county, I know, to make their bores underneath Southgate to tap their pipeline. So we expect their crews to be moving in fairly soon to get their lines installed underneath the road. And then their equipment has been ordered and so forth to begin those installations. So it's easy to visualize quite a bit more progress than what we just had before, is, you know, just a plan on the paper. Do we have any other pictures? Is that also? Yeah, I think that was it. So just kind of a quick summary for you to kind of see things are moving along quite well. Equipment orders are coming along quite well. We're getting ready to submit what I'll call a phased plan package to the fire marshal office for the plant. So in essence, the submittal that we'll send in now will be for all the underground work, for all the conduits and rough in and all the concrete pad. We've got all of our foundation plans completed for the plant. And so we'll submit that, have approval so that we can get out there and get all the underground done. Then there'll be a second submittal to them that'll basically contain all the electrical details, all the equipment details. So kind of send it to them in two hits. So allow us to keep working. So any questions on all that?
I just wanted to clarify something real quickly for the commission, and really more so for the public, just to remind people what we're doing here. What we're doing here is you're helping us solve a regulatory problem that we have.
Exactly.
At no cost to the city. You're going to generate a future revenue stream that's significant in the 6 figures that the city can use, and we're recycling. And I thought that was important because I know I hear a lot of times people want us to recycle at the curb. That is, that's a recipe to lose money if that's what we want to do. We're doing something even better now. We're recycling at the curb in the trash truck. All the organic material that goes in that truck goes into those landfill cells that you've built this gas piping system to feed to this pipeline system. So I think it's important to note, I think you guys are all aware of that. This project didn't happen overnight too. And so I know it's much better reporting now that stuff is going on, but I just wanted to point that out. It's a fantastic project. I did drive out there today because I missed the ribbon cutting and I haven't seen some stuff. And I was struck by, you know, the location. You guys came and talked several months ago. The location moved. I think the location is probably better for us because it's out of the way.
Right.
But what I wanted to mention to the public and the commissioners is what the first thing that I was struck with, if you haven't been to our landfill, it's out on Southgate between 10th and 16th. The first thing I noticed when I drove up, I wondered at how clean it was. And that's a tribute to our city team with David Hunter, Tim Stevens, Tatum Keegan, and their employees in this Oklahoma wind with the trash blowing in a landfill. very, very clean. Now, there is a little bit of trash in some of the fence lines. They walk that every day. So I encourage you, if you haven't seen where this is at, go out there. It won't be hard for you to find it. If you just drive down Southgate to 16th, you'll see a graded dirt patch and a couple of gravel entrances. So I do thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for all of your efforts, and Norm and Spark and our city team and getting this solution that I'm going to say is unprecedented. We provide recycling in the landfill, which is the most efficient way to do it. We solve a regulatory problem that the government puts upon us for the good and the safety of the citizens, and we get paid for it. I'm not sure that I can mention a single other example like this, so it's notable. And with that, I'm sure the commissioners do have some questions for you.
Very good. Yes, more methane goes in the system, which is ultimately the benefit behind that.
Yes.
I might point out one detail that Wade talked about. It's a bentonite plug. It's really important that we do not bring any more oxygen into our lines than we can help, because in essence, our gas pipeline quality standard has a very, very low threshold for oxygen content in the pipeline. And so all that he can knock down on the front end makes it a lot easier work for us at the plant side, because we're chasing the methane. We don't want the oxygen in the system. So just be aware of that.
Well, make sure you're sharing that with the smart people running the landfill if that's something that we have to affect, because oxygen kind of just naturally, thankfully, gets everywhere where there's.
They're going to sit there with their
Not a hole.
chromatograph and all their controls from their command system, central system, and if it's not meeting, their requirement, then they have this check valve that they very conveniently close on us. And then we're like, uh-oh, and we have to go find out what's wrong, get the thing back in compliance, operating the way it needs to be before we can turn it back on again. So just, these are little details that we work through, daily to make sure the gas flow meets the
It's never as
compliance.
easy as it seems, is it? Seems like magic sometimes, but it takes a lot of effort.
There's a little bit going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So, and also, I was impressed. Everything looked great out there today, because I thought with all that wind, I was like, well, what am I
Thank you.
going to see
That's what I
passing
noticed
by?
right away. A
And the only thing I
landfill.
saw was those little planes buzzing over me all the time. I got to figure out
Well,
how
that's
to
the
get on
sound
one
of
of those
prosperity,
flights.
right, Colonel?
That looks like more fun than being on the ground. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Any questions?
I have one more,
Oh, go
one more
ahead, Rob.
comment. I went out there today because I want to be able to tell Norm I'm really happy or I wasn't happy. And he didn't even show up.
Well, that gator got him. That's what I'm telling you.
But it looked fine. Yeah, you guys are doing a good job.
Thank you.
So.
Appreciate it.
And I was just going to say for the people at home, when I was campaigning, we were kind of in the middle of switching over our trash containers and what we could put in them and couldn't.
Right.
We had separated grass clippings for years, and now all of a sudden we're asking people to throw their grass clippings in with regular trash. And
Yes.
this is why.
Organics.
So.
Yeah, don't send me your tubiphores. Send me your clippings, okay? That's exactly what we're after.
Other comments? Anybody? Thank you very much. We appreciate what you're doing.
You bet.
Item 3.3, address the city's legislative priorities. Mr. Ogo, be you.
We just thought we would use this time as a little brainstorming session. A couple weeks ago, we were kind of throwing around some ideas about new legislation that we'd like to see introduced at the state capitol. OML is going to be having a meeting, I believe, later this month to kind of throw out there a deadline, their own self-imposed deadline to get legislation introduced. Kind of keep in mind, though, that the deadline to introduce new bills, the first deadline, usually takes place in the first week of December. So we have plenty of time. OML does have some self-imposed deadlines they like to work with, which is fine. Obviously, the certificate of compliance issue will be refiled with Senator Coleman. He said he was going to do that, so we're going to hold him to his word on that. The other issue was with your FEMA money that you're waiting on from the federal government. I talked to Gerald about that, and we really need to be pressing a little harder on that. We have a good friend. Obviously, Frank Lucas represents this area and both of our U.S. senators, but Tom Cole is the new incoming appropriations chair for the House, the appropriations chair for the House. And I think we need to press on that, not just for the city of Enid, but I'm sure there's other cities in the state that fall into that category, if not other cities in the nation. So we need to clarify that a little bit more. Another idea along that topic is I'm going to ask OML to ask our leadership in the State House, State Senate to file a joint resolution that both the House and Senate would pass and they would send that official message to Congress. And they do that on a variety of topics, but I think this would be a great topic to band together on. Are there other cities in the state, do we know for sure, that are on this wait list?
Oh, sure. I don't know the exact stuff, but we can certainly, at that OML meeting will be a good time to bring this up.
Yeah.
To compile a list. I'm guessing the accounts payable due to cities is probably pretty large. It's
Yeah.
pretty large in our city, isn't it, Aaron?
What is the accounts payable?
Over $1 million.
How much? 4?
7 figures, $1 million, over $1 million.
Over $1 million, okay.
Now,
And-
OEM is significantly less, but that's also challenging that probably with our own state delegation, maybe we can get some help on that.
Yeah, well, a resolution to the feds might spur that a little bit. Obviously, I think that's a big topic. Now that we have Tom Cole in that position, I think we can get their attention. I wanted to bring that to light. Are there any other ideas before we have this meeting with OML later this month? All right.
I'll come up with some more, but I don't
I
have
bet you
any
would.
tonight.
Yeah, and I know they have this self-imposed deadline, but we have several months to go yet that we can get ideas introduced
Yeah.
and.
For us, Kurt, working with OML, we will have to get our
Yeah,
stuff together, I think by July 18th for that July 24th meeting.
right.
What OML does is then they take that legislative committee that we're part of, they figure out what they think the priorities are going to be, and they take that to the OML board that
Yeah.
meets sometime after that, and then it goes to the general membership at the September conference.
Good.
So
Okay.
that's pretty much how that flows. So probably it'd be helpful once we figure out what our priorities are, maybe in conjunction, well, certainly what ours are, but with other cities. Maybe you could help facilitate a meeting with our local legislators.
You bet.
Just to, I know that the mayor and Commissioner Patterson got to hear from Mike Fina recently, and what did Mike say? Who did Mike say that all those people should be listening to?
Me? I don't know.
Yes. There's over 3,000 commissioners
Yeah.
and mayors versus, 101
Oh, yes.
legislative people
Yeah.
and 49 senators and 1 governor. And sometimes I don't think that message gets across. That's the value of OML.
It is
to
the value.
put a joint
And I will
message
tell you,
together.
when they can turn on that grassroots button and push that grassroots button, it creates a lot of calls into the State House and State Senate. And they do call back and say, can you shut it off? We're going to address this issue because, that it does work. That grassroots effort, and that's what it is, if we all band together.
A
But,
concern that we will all have the mayor's voice before is the grocery tax that was passed. We understand why
Right.
we're concerned there'll be some pressure on municipalities, and we hope that that doesn't happen. So hopefully you can closely monitor that for us to help us navigate that, because, Mayor, how many states in the union only get sales tax? Just one.
One, that's us. We don't get, and you know this.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Being rhetorical, but we're the only state in the union that does not get to share in the ad valorem tax. So every time I get a constituent that says, I pay my property taxes, none of that comes to us.
There is one small sliver of property tax that comes to cities as of just a few years ago, and that's the public safety districts that can be
Okay.
created. I don't know that Enid participates in that, but that was brought about, I think, by the Tulsa, some communities in the Tulsa area. And it took several years just to get that little sliver, but I think that's where the cities really want to stop, quite honestly, maintain their turf a little
I
bit.
certainly think that
I don't know
needs
if
to
the
change.
cities want to stop, but I think the counties and everybody
Well,
else
that,
wants
I
to.
didn't phrase that correctly, I was being too kind. But I really do want to focus on that FEMA money. That seems to be a real problem. we need to be a little louder on. And
I like the thought of a resolution. We also had a good conversation with Senator Langford when he was here last.
Okay.
And he didn't know about that either. So hopefully we're going to hear from him as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
All right.
we just don't want to be a bank for the federal government.
Yeah, well, we need to collect that money now.
Yeah.
You let that sit out there too long, then they
Forget about
forget
it.
about it and write it off.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd like to have interest on that
And
also.
and what years did that take place? Ice storms of what years, or
21.
21?
No, 2020.
No.
Sorry, all of 2020.
October of 20.
October 20, one storm for us? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, we need to collect that.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
that's all I have.
I would have known the
Oh.
answer to that question, but I think that's right when the mayor spilled his coffee all over the table. So I might not have heard.
You just can't let that go, can you?
Well,
All right. Well, Kurt, seriously, keep us updated on this.
Okay.
We don't want to be following up with all of our legislators after everything's been done. I felt like we were kind of behind last
Yeah.
year. I want to be out in front of that and remind everybody that they work for us, just
Right.
like we work for the city. So we need to be ahead of that and try to get some of those dollars back to where they need to be.
yeah, we need to focus on that FEMA piece, because that translates to the state emergency management dollars as well. And I guess
Yes,
there's
sir.
a smaller bill there that they would.
There is. I don't know that amount, but
Yeah,
you know, the state had a $5 billion carryover. Pay us our part.
right, right.
Okay. All right.
Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 3.4, update on the Cleveland Street widening project, railroad tracks to Willow. This is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't spill the beans yet.
Huh?
Don't spill the beans yet, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Mayor.
not. I'm
All
not.
right.
I'm just
Door
excited.
just got a lid on it, so it'll be okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for having me again today. I feel like this is probably at least the 12th time I've presented this topic to y'all today, but I've got good news and I've got exciting news for the project. So just a quick overview of where we're at currently with the project. Of course, this is a widening project, so it included water lines, right-of-way acquisition, and some large drainage projects. Water line's complete, right-of-way acquisition is complete, and kind of the regional area kind of detention things that were required for the project, those are all complete. So basically, that leaves us with just the roadway widening project, the trails and sidewalks portion of the project, and then the railroad crossing portion of the project. A few notes that I always want to throw out there on this project is this project will not impact Willow in any manner. The work is happening before the intersection of Willow. Overall timeline of the project started in January of 2018. I think I was here for about 3 months when we started this project. So moved a long ways since then. So January 2018, it was the project began. May of 2018, 60% were completed. You jump down to May of 2023. That's when everything was right away, utilities were out of the way, and that's when we sat down with ODOT and they came together with the agreement. I guess we say they gave us an agreement that you all reviewed and signed. September of 2023, the completed plans were approved by ODOT, and it was set out to a release for bids in October of 2023. November of 2023, we received the bids. December, we rejected those bids. We as a city did. And then May of 2024, we got together and updated the plans to make adjustments to the plans, and then the plans were re-released in June of 2024. I'm not going to read through all these numbers, but you can see it's an expensive project. So moving forward down to where we're at today, the potential ODOT agreement that we have with them is a grand total of $7.2 million. the ODOT portion is 1 million, and then the city's portion that we've already set forth in the agreement was 4.7 million, leaving a leaving a difference about 1.5. So, June 20th, something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood, Gerald composed a letter that we sent to Director Gantz at ODOT requesting additional funds, and we found out Friday that Director Gantz has approved us for additional funding, and it's being moved to the engineer's office to get those funds available and get the agreement updated so that they will cover their portion, and we are set and ready to go for the project to begin.
Very
So-
good. Yeah.
Thought that was exciting news to share with y'all. So if there's any questions on the project or anything, fire away. Nothing's really changed on the project.
So help me with the numbers now. Our portion is still going to be $4 million, $4.7 million?
Yes, sir.
And ODOT will cover the rest?
Yes, so ODOT will cover the 1 million that they've agreed to in the original agreement, and then they're going to redo the agreement. They're going to do a new agreement, so it'll be the 1.5 plus 1 plus the 1, so 2.5 million. One thing I thought I'd throw out there too is so the bids that we received, was 6.8, and the reason for the total of it being 7.2 is there's a 6% administration inspection fee that ODOT tags on there that is included in that contract. So.
Well, this is very exciting news. We have been working on this project for quite a while, and so I appreciate you're very kind. You wrote the letter. I ended up signing the letter, but I do appreciate your efforts as we recognize. You remember we came to you at least twice on funding for this, originally $3 million, and then I think there was at least one additional ask, and when it came back, I want to say a third time, but I guess it was the first time that it was bid. Mm-hmm. I think Morali and I realized this is we need some help. So that really, so I'm grateful that ODOT gave us more money, which helps pay their fee too. And it's outstanding. We do say, I think this will be the most expensive road in Enid by foot or inch or however you want to measure it. There are some complications because there's drainage there and all, but we're very satisfied that for the amount of money that we've already put up, this 4.7 is already in ODOT's hands. It's in their bank account somewhere earning interest for them. So we're very happy that the rest of they're going to fund now. So when did you say the project will start, or when the pre-bid conference will be? Or
We haven't got those final dates yet,
Okay.
as when that stuff will be, but I'm sure as soon as those happen, I'm going to be hooping and hollering. I need start dates. I need to tell my residents of when that's going to start and keep people ready for it, because it is going to be a large project. It's going to impact a lot of people, but on the flip side of that, when it's done, it's going to impact the area a tremendous amount. So.
Yeah, and it's a continuation of the widening. And I don't recall exactly when we started the widening. It was probably back in around 2010 or something like that. We redid the intersection at Chestnut and Cleveland, did 2 phases to get up to the railroad. I guess first phase was the intersection, second phase was to the railroad tracks. After this phase, we'll have at least one phase left to go from, is it Maple, around wherever the road narrows from Chestnut to the south all the way down to about Maple, where it's already 4-laned again.
Yeah. That's right.
So very excited about this project. It's been a long time coming. It's a great project. We couldn't have done it without coming up with an extra $1.5 million. So gosh, now that we know ODOT has a lot of money in their pocket, we're probably going to start asking them for more help.
Gerald, I have a question. Was that in this year's budget? Is that where that money came from?
The money was in previous budgets, and I want to say, I don't recall what budgets they were in. Do you, Aaron?
I think the 3 million was 2 years ago, and then we did an appropriation during last year for the 1.7 to add to it.
Okay.
And what happens is they send us, they may have sent us an agreement and a bill, and then we pay the invoice, which is how the money gets transferred after it's budgeted, which is why there's 4.7 total on tap.
All right.
More questions? Well, this is good news. Thank you. 3.5, update from the Parks Department on 4th of July activities. And Corey, I think this is you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm glad to be here today. I'm just going to give you guys a quick update on what we're going to be doing for the 4th of July celebration at Meadow Lake coming up Thursday. So the day before, starting tomorrow, I'll have 500 pounds of channel catfish delivered out there. I tag them with different colored tags, and we'll get those released into the lake, as well as the rest of the 500 pounds of the fish. So when the kids or whoever catches those color tagged fish, they'll bring it up to us, and we've got prizes set aside for all of those. So we tag about 75 to 100 of those tags of those fish. We do have no fishing, obviously. We release them tomorrow, and there will be no fishing until the start of the Derby at 5:30 on Friday, or on Thursday, I'm sorry. The registration for this event starts at 5. We'll have people out there helping pass out registration forms. You do have to be registered to join the fishing derby, but you don't have to pay anything. So it's just kind of a tracking device. And in years past, we've had some people, kind of try to cheat and slide through and get a bunch of tagged fish before we open the event. So the actual derby will start at 5:30. Like I said, they'll claim the color of the tag that comes with the fish has a prize to it. Untagged fish will be weighed for the biggest fish competition. We have another prize for that, and then kids always get prizes, so they'll be able to bring their fish, their catch up to us, and we'll help them out with some prizes there. The 10:30 that morning is the final weigh-in. We'll have a prize for biggest fish, second biggest fish, third biggest fish. And then there's also a prize for the albino fish, which hadn't been caught in 4 years, but they are being stocked in there. They're a pretty rare white catfish. So we'll have a raffle at the end of that as well, at 11 o'clock. For the remainder of the day at noon, the miniature golf and snow cones will be open for everybody. 3 to 9, the paddle boats will be riding. 3 to 10, the concessions at the train building, the new Train Star Express. 6 to 9, the Kiwanis club rides will be going, the Ferris wheel, the carousels. 8 o'clock, new this year, will be an awesome flyover by Vance Air Force Base, and the Enid Symphony will be starting. And then at dusk, the fireworks will begin, and we'll celebrate another year. I'll take any questions. That's all I've got for you tonight.
Colonel, we appreciate the flyover.
Happy to do it.
Do you have some details? Is there 4 aircraft, or how many aircraft?
Yeah, 4 aircraft at similar formations, so 1 T1, T-38, and then 2 T6s. So yeah, it should be great. We're looking forward
Well, thank you very much for supporting your community. We certainly appreciate that.
We're honored to do it. Thanks for allowing us the opportunity, sir.
Okay, I think it's all the items on study session. 6:03, we'll adjourn and start our regular session at 6:30.